Right, everybody. Announcements are complete, and we are ready at long last to dive into the action from day 3 at the 2024 World Cup from Albuquerque, New Mexico. Starting with the Collins division presented by the Collins Coalition. Later today, moving to the WOW division presented by WGPO. First game of the day. Nsikak Etim. We had a lot of games yesterday or our first 2 days rather, from Wellington Jigare and Eda Caro, two of the Nigerian players making the trip over. But Nsikak fighting his way high in the standings, and his reward, a matchup against one of North America's finest, Dave Wiegand. As I believe, on our first day, I am joined once again by Nits Chagti. Nits, thank you so much for hopping on board with me again.
Of course. Thank you so much for inviting me back. I am really excited to see this matchup. I can't say I've seen a team play on screen or against the board, but I have had the pleasure, or would I say displeasure, of losing to Wiegand multiple times at games such as Hood River, or even just casually at club games. And he is a fantastic player. So fun to play, so fun to watch.
Yeah, he's one of these players, as we mentioned on an earlier day, that as Dave looks meaningfully into the streaming camera there, a soulful gaze. No, he's just getting his game face on there, as it is Etim going first in this game. But yeah, Dave's an incredible player. He's got word knowledge that you would never be surprised to see him play any word, no matter how long. It really is one of the few players in that Nigel Richards realm of the ability to play longer words. Of course, on a game in, game out basis, you may not actually see that manifest itself, but you are always liable with Dave to see something pretty special over the board. So, but it is going to be a team going first, and not the best letters for him to start. Very fast first play Nits from him.
I like this. I don't think there's much else that he could do with this. I mean, you see these letters, you see the B, the V, they're unhappy, they're kind of clunky, you want them off your rack, and vibe's a great way to go.
Yeah, I think it's definitely the right word. A couple different positions for this word. You can play it here. You could also have slotted it 1 over, maybe actually 2 over. That would avoid placing any vowels next to these double letter squares. But Vibe actually takes a few hooks, the Y and the X, in addition to the S. So maybe by slotting it to the left, as Etim has done, he's slightly decreasing the damage of those 2 letters if Dave were to have them. Of course, we see he doesn't. He's got duplicated low point consonants Nits. No bingos for Dave. One of these difficult racks to navigate.
Absolutely. When you've got these low point tiles that look so probable, like you were so close to a bingo, it can be kind of tempting to just fish off 1 or 2, but I don't think we're going to see Dave Wiegand do that. I think he's going to play something like darn, like he's got set up on his rack already. I think playing that underneath or above Vibe would be a good idea here. And he still keeps NIR, which are great tiles to keep if he wants to bingo later.
Yeah, for sure. He's got the ability to dump off a few of those duplicates and leave himself in good shape to bingo later, as you suggest. So we'll just have to see. It's being pointed out in the chat. Dave turned 50 last week. That's crazy. I remember the fresh-faced young Dave Wiegand winning his first, the pictures of him winning his first national championship. He's been in the game for a heck of a long time, and he really has compiled one of the more impressive resumes of any North American-based player.
Absolutely. What do you think about his placement of darn over here? I probably would have preferred something above. How about you?
It's interesting. So he could have played darn on the top of Vibe. Is that what you're suggesting? Maybe playing it there. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess One thought is by playing it down low, if he's able to draw an E to pair with the R that he left on his rack, an IER word would actually be able to fit on the board after this play a little bit more easily. Of course, we see he did not draw an E, but it could have been one of those situations where it's close to the same, putting it on the bottom or the top. I don't know. I'm not sure I have a strong preference for one or the other. Maybe he is just trying to get that IER combination, give it a space to play if he were to have drawn a little bit better.
Now, it seemed to go, he's got that fun little O to go on top of BA, making OBA. Perhaps a word, a three-letter word like LOP might do well here. It's a clean play, it keeps his INS, a W to go with it, but it scores pretty well, 21 points. I'm a fan of this play.
Lop, interesting. So that does look nice. The only drawback that it might have is it keeps the W, but for those points, it's actually kind of difficult to get a similar number of points to that here. I also like where, you know, if you were to just put it back on the board again, it sets up his S in a way. I guess there already are S hooks here, so that's not that big of an issue. But instead, he's going to go a totally different direction and play Nowl. I think his thought of playing this is, I really want to get that W off my rack as my weakest bingo tile, but it is a little bit more aggressive than your suggestion of Lop, Nits.
Absolutely. And the aggression, I think, would merit Dr. Bing here, is what we familiarly call him for his propensity for bingoing so frequently over the board. He might be forced to just block this, perhaps with something as simple as fly through the L that has been floated out.
That's true. Fly would certainly be a reasonable option for Dave. It keeps grind on his rack, which is a decent bingo leave. The only problem is that with ing in your bingo leave, one of the big things that you're looking for is to make absolutely sure that if I do draw a 7-letter word ending in ing, where would it play? I guess it is possible after fly that if Dave drew a 7-letter word starting with D, ending in ing, he would be able to play that with the Dern hook on the board. So maybe that could be enough to sway him to play fly. That being said, it looks like he might be considering playing flying, and now he's going back and considering third, a totally different type of play. Right here, I think, is where he would consider playing third, right here, FYRD, leaving ing on his rack. The thought behind that play might be, if Etim plays across to the triple, it would give Dave new openings to play an ing 8-letter word. Of course, we see, Nits, that if Dave plays third, he's going to get hit with an X play pretty fast from Etim.
I can see him probably not wanting to open up that spot. So I wonder what Dave is going to do here. He's putting down flying.
Oh. So flying is the play. This has become a word knowledge check for Etim right now. And I just wonder, with the way he has his tiles set up on his rack with text on the right and SIP on the left, Etim has the crazy 8-letter bingo through that N that Dave floated in space. You guys have spotted it in the chat. Spin text. That would be an incredible, incredible find here by Etim for him to land on this turn. There is another nuance too, Nits. Flying, does it take an S? The answer is yes, but would Etim feel confident enough in it to play his S here as well?
I would not be surprised if Etim knew that as a word, being a 7-letter INGS word, but also I would not be surprised at all if spin text comes down pretty soon, especially with the way, as you mentioned, his tiles are already arranged. I would say that makes it kind of easier for him to spot this when the anagramming takes little work here, as opposed to perhaps having the tiles more haphazardly. And it would be a pleasure to see this word really come down. and blow that board wide open.
Yeah, I do worry as we sometimes speculate in these situations that when there's any delay in a word like this, I feel like it's an indicator that maybe we're not going to see the player in question play this word. It's been a minute now. I feel like if he sees it, oh man, he hasn't even touched a tile yet. I don't know what to make of
Right.
that. I wonder if he sees it and maybe he's just getting ready to pull the trigger on it. Um, I don't know. It's hard to read at team's body language here, but this would definitely be a huge swing in his favor if he is able to pull the trigger on this 90-point beautiful bingo. I would be very excited to see it.
Perhaps he's considering whether it is valid or not. Maybe he does see it and he's just not sure if it's a word that he's made up, because again, this is a massive dictionary with a whole lot of words that are not very familiar to the average person. It's easy to get confused. It's easy to, reconsider whether a word is something that you've seen before, or if something it's something you're making it up in your head. And the more games you play, the more, phonies you come across. Who's to say you haven't seen the word as a phony played against you?
Yeah, that always can happen, right? When you're you encounter words through other contexts in your life and they get lodged in your head, and as a Scrabble player, it's hard to distinguish. Sometimes you're sitting in a game and you think of a word, and you say to yourself, God, did I pick this up from somewhere else? And sometimes the answer is, yeah, you did. You picked it up. It's a brand name. It's something else. I play just a quick anecdote from my own play from the Albany tournament. There's a food company called Hormel Foods, and I got that word mixed up with Harmel, which is a valid word, against Ben Schoenbrunn, a player who's far too good to let something like that slide. So I blew a game by playing Hormel. Thank you so much to Hormel for sponsoring the stream. By the way, no, just kidding. That's not what happened. It was
No.
just my mistake. So, all right, there it
Oh, there we go.
comes. Look at that. Finally, after a long think from Etim, he's arranged his letters in the exact way we would expect. And this is a
Oh,
great indicator that he's going ahead with this, Nits.
and if this does come down, I think Dave is probably just gonna have to go back and play deoxy or something through the X when it does come down. That would probably his highest scoring play as far as I can see. I really hope we see this come down. This is such a cool play. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So he's definitely spotted it now. It would be very surprising to see him pull away from this. Nicely spotted
Oh,
by
nice.
Etim. Spin text for 90 points and a beautiful play, in fact. And back over to Dave, and that is just a huge swing in this game in Etim's favor. Very nicely spotted. It did take him a little time on that clock, but I think Etim, like some of his countrymen that we've seen, probably very comfortable playing at a fast clip. So look for him to not be phased by taking a little bit of extra time on that move. So yeah, Nits, to your point, deoxy right here through this X. Looks like a solid play. Only drawback, it leaves both of his two R's on his rack. Maybe he'll try to find a play that uses an R.
Perhaps that, or perhaps he'll feel more comfortable keeping the E and the D back. Perhaps only playing Oxy, OXY. That could also be a move here. I do want to point out how cool it is that Dr. Bing didn't even he didn't even blink. He just knew that was a word. He didn't hold. He didn't challenge. He was just like, okay, yeah, my move now. Let's go.
Yeah, no surprise there. Again, Dave really has absolute top shelf word knowledge. It would be hard to name very many other players in the world who have better word knowledge than Dave, apart from Nigel Richards. He really is at that level. So, no surprise whatsoever to see him accept that word with nary a blink of his eye, as you suggested there. And look at that definition for spin text: a long-winded preacher. That's pretty fun as definitions go.
All right. What does Bing seem to be looking at? I'm trying. Is he looking at Gori through the G
Yeah,
in flying? Is that
I
why he's
think
had those
so.
styles before?
Yeah, I think he has that ORI set up so that he can play Gory right here. This looks like a very reasonable play. Without an S, it's also next. It is impossible to underlap it to the triple. It looks like a scary spot, but unless a team has that S, it's not really going to hit that hard. But he's gone back to alphabetizing his tiles. That is something you see a lot by many players at this level. You see a lot of racks that are ordered in alphabetical order. That's kind of to increase the pattern recognition that we can experience looking at those tiles. If you're preparing for competitive play and you're trying to learn words, seeing them over and over again in the same pattern, in that alphabetized pattern, can help you recall them a little bit better during the game. Just a note of why we see those alphabetized racks sometimes.
Absolutely. And I think there's some people now who will recognize a word faster by the alphagram than by the anagram itself. I know my friend Lola McKisson, for example, says that about the word sequoia, where she sees the alphagram faster than she sees the word itself.
Wow, that's impressive, but not surprising. And there he's going to go back and play your original suggestion of deoxy here. Makes sense. It scores the highest number of points that Dave can get. Let's just see what happens to that IRR leave. If that leads him astray here, a pick of another R would be pretty devastating. He needs an E that would really make that leave shine. But in fact, he hasn't drawn an E. Instead, he's drawn airport, which looks like at the very least, it's going to play with the slightly obscure two-letter word, Collins only, ST. So airport at the very least is going to play down there. So a great pick for Dave to his IRR leave, Nits.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a great pick right out of the bag. Obviously, Bing is going to see it. We're going to see it come down momentarily. I imagine he's just scanning the board to make sure he hasn't missed anything because Dr. Bing is nothing if not thorough.
Yeah, he is for sure. I think he's going to know that the board, that with these letters and with the board the way it is, there's just not much else going on. Just want to point out at Team's previous play, Broman, very, very nice idea on his part. Only the tiniest little upgrade that could be made. A Team left a D on his rack after that move. He could have just placed the D instead of the N for a few extra points with Bromid or potentially Morbid, the anagram. Bromid looks a little bit better to make overlaps a little bit more difficult down this column. So yeah, the tiniest little upgrade to be made there, but airport is a huge play by Dave to get right back in the game. And you could see he's drawn one of the two blanks while a team is going to have to struggle with this Q. So things have shifted on a dime here in this game. I do expect to see a team play Cade here, leaving a nice set of tiles for next turn, though, Nits.
Beautiful. I mean, he identified he needed to play out that Q. He knows it's helpful Q that U words. That's something you end up doing when you become a competitive Scrabble player, and he duplicated his A. So really well done.
Yeah, he's got a good chance of drawing a bingo. Ideally, he needs another vowel or two so that he can end a 7-letter word in a vowel here. And he has done exactly that with uranide.
Nice.
Uranide now playing in 2 spots at minimum right here. So Dave's drawn the blank, but a team is going to strike first with a follow-up bingo after spin text earlier in the game. So a lot of fireworks so far in this game.
I imagine Bink's just going to want to get rid of his J somewhere for a lot of points. And I can see one spot on the board that would be great for that. The T, the last T in spin text would help make TAJ, Taj, right there for 35 points. It does keep the F on his rack, which is not the greatest bingo tile, but he has a blank to help him through the next few turns if he doesn't bingo next turn as it is.
Yeah, it looks like a great place to dump that J for sure. Seems reasonable, and he's got to be feeling pretty good about his chances of getting the next bingo down, but a team is going to be the one doing that for sure. Also pointed out in the chat, Uridinia playable through the eye of airport. if a team wants it. I do think that Uranide here is going to score enough extra points that will possibly be his option, unless he has some kind of defensive consideration that makes Uridinia even more appealing. But yeah, you've mentioned a couple times, I don't know if everybody knows this, Nits, you've called Dave Dr. Bing. Talk a little bit about that nickname on his part.
Oh, absolutely. He's known for just never failing to miss a bingo and always getting down multiple of them against you. And if you have the opportunity to play him in the game Anagrams, which is a variant of Scrabble word finding finding games, he's just, I mean, he is incredible. He will find so many of those words, and yeah, there's just no winning against this guy. He is absolutely one of the best. He's absolutely one of the best, and that's why we call him Dr. Bing.
Yeah, he is incredible to watch playing Anagrams. It's really at another level, and it shows that he really does have that insane level of word knowledge. Interesting. That is a little bit surprising to me that with the blank in hand, Dave would keep the J here. I wonder what he has in mind for the J. And oh, look at this. There's an even better place for Etim to bingo, unaired, making a bunch of extra hooks. But I admit, surprised to see Dave keep the J there, Nits.
I wonder if he was reading something from a team that we didn't catch, if he was wondering if there was, I don't know, too much volatility on that side of the board. Not really sure why he chose not to get rid of that J, but now he has the option to burn his blank for 48 points if he underlaps unaired with JIGOT, Chicken.
That's tempting. So the play you're suggesting right here, I think the board is open enough, and there are probably just enough other plays that I do think he is going to try to keep that blank. But it is tempting when you can get a bunch more points with a move than you can with anything else to consider cashing that blank. But I would be thinking maybe Goji is enough points and enough opening, scoring 25, opening a couple lanes here. Seems like I would potentially lean towards that. But again, we've been already incorrect about Dave's handling of the J. Let's see if he confounds us a second time.
He has Goji arranged on his rack, just as you suggested. I wouldn't be surprised if that play came down. It seems more human that way. People have a tendency to hold on to that blank because if you think of it in terms of its value, its equity value, it is worth around 25 points. There's a strong case to be made for holding on to it and hoping to bingo later. So this is absolutely the move that most players will make in this situation. It's not necessarily the wrong move at all.
Nits, I am amazed, though, that the computer engine does seem to slightly prefer your initial option of Jigget for 48. That is something that very few human players would probably be able to pull the trigger on. But that is a surprisingly strong possibility. And, oh, man, Goji, the only drawback of this play, and maybe the computer engine is docking this play on that basis, is it does give back that easy triple, and a team with the K is going to hammer that spot. It looks like he's clearly spotted a word. He has only one that plays down from that triple, making okay, and that word is nuke, N-E-U-K. That's what I expect to see him play here.
Oh boy, that is crazy. I will say that the reason why I've started to think of the blank in terms of blanking instead of just burning it is because of Matt O'Connor, who is another expert player in the scene. He's not playing this tournament right now, but he is known for sometimes using his blank, not for a bingo, but for a whole bunch of points. And it's incredible watching him do that and watching his reasoning. I've only been lucky to, meet these incredible expert players and learn from them over time because they really shine. They really do.
Yeah, that play on the previous turn for Dave of Jigget, I could easily see Matthew making that play, and probably he's one of the few that would have the cojones, would have the ability, the confidence to make a play like that, when actually it may well have been the actual best option according to computer analysis. But these are two human beings playing these games. And yeah, for me, I would really struggle to burn the blank there, just because at this deficit, you feel like it's my golden ticket back into this game. It's my lifeline to get a big play. And you can see Dave, I don't know where he's going to play it, but in the chat, it's been pointed out, zygosis with a blank Y.
Oh my
doesn't
God.
doesn't currently fit anywhere on this board, and I don't think it will fit after nuke, which now you can see Etim has lined up on his rack. That word is going to slot right here. Not sure if there's going to be much further delay. I think ideally Etim would love to hold on to his E, but remember, there's a ton still to come from his perspective, so he can use that E and not worry that much about redrawing one from the bag here. So a lot of positives about this move. It scores 53 points. And now he's going back a different direction. I wonder if he's having some crisis in confidence over the validity of that word.
I don't know. I wonder why he would be eyeing Runkle here. Is he thinking of playing that to the side of flying, making FE? Perhaps it's a way to control the board. I mean, I see it as one of the only places to play a 7-letter word right now. So perhaps that could be the reasoning behind it. Kind of obstructs the O a little bit as well in Goji.
Now he's set up in unrake in the same spot, which would score a little bit more by placing the K on that double word, the double letter score. So that's another option he's clearly thinking of. But yeah, I don't know. That's a big point sacrifice. 15 fewer points on the scoreboard. But I will admit, you're right. And it's after a 6-letter play right here, the board is a little bit more closed off than it would be after a 4-letter play here. You would have this lane wide open. You would still be able to play, if you're Dave, a 7-letter word down here. After unrake, that would not be possible. So maybe a board closing option. For me, the points of nuke are just so much that I got to go for those here. So yeah, we'll see. Definitely agonizing a little bit here. He's going back to Runkle.
In that same vein of blocking up the board. Oh, sorry. Go for it.
No worries. Didn't mean to cut you off.
I was just wondering, in the same vein of blocking up the board there, if Junker would accomplish something similar, but also obstruct possibly playing down from the triple.
It definitely would. So now that triple remains open. Yeah, this is a surprising choice. So clearly Etim saw unrake as well, which would, so this move only getting him 27 points. He saw the potential play that would have given him 53 points on that turn. So this is a lot of points to sacrifice in order to create a more comfortable board for a team. But once I update the scores, you can see the score is at that range where maybe it's worth it. Maybe it's worth sacrificing a lot of points to make that board that's a little bit easier to defend against bingos. So I appreciate that. And Dave clearly has, now you can see, he sees on a different board in a different situation, he'd be playing Zygosis, not this board, Nits.
Yeah, and he also sees that Etim had the tiles NEUK. He could have absolutely played at the spot where he initially flashed the K. And I got to ask you about that. You know, like, what do you think it does to a player's psychology for your opponent to flash that tile that slots perfectly into that one place where they know they're going to score 53 points? What does this telegraph to Dave? I mean, he knows the board's blocked. He knows that, you know, the only lane that he had for sevens is gone now. What does that, I mean, where does he go from here?
I don't know. I mean, that's tough to really suss out. I feel like I guess I would be happy to feel like I dodged a little bit of a bullet, because yes, the board is tougher to work with after Runkle. At the same time, I'm almost 30 points closer on the scoreboard than I could have been otherwise. And I didn't have a bingo that would have been blocked by this play anyway. So, basically, I feel a little bit like I've just gotten a bit of a lucky break. That being said, what to do with that information or with a team playing that way, maybe it gives me a little confidence in the sense of if I continue to make aggressive opening plays, maybe I can motivate a team to continue to make blocking plays that aren't as powerful. We can see, though, that a team's drawn a very strong rack, and he is definitely going to be a favorite to somehow find a way to get a bingo down if Dave opens the board further. So this is not looking that good in practical terms for Dave, but he's got a lot of ammo on his rack. He's definitely thinking, as rough as the scoreboard, the score line looks right now, I've got some chances here.
Absolutely. And while he does have that Z that he could hammer for, I think about 34 points or something like that by playing Zing through the N in Runkle, it might not be a bad idea for him to use that triple word spot, maybe play GIOS. Yes, he'd be flashing that he has likely another S set aside. But I mean, this is Collins. It's not the worst thing to hold on to your Z. It is a pretty useful title in this lexicon.
Yeah, that's true. The Z, you could easily see the Z pairing well with some other letters, for example, to score a very high number of points right here. If Dave is able to, draw something like, I guess, I don't know how he's going to keep the I, but if he were to keep the I and draw TE, he would play ZT, the weird spelling, ZITE in that spot for a very good score. So there's definitely some areas of the board where the Z might be nice. I don't really know what he's likely to do here. I mean, maybe just using this spot now and playing something like Geos here. The G is a nice letter to end 8-letter words with. Of course, leaving SZ blank is not a great way to end a word in a G. You're looking for IN. So maybe instead of a play like that, he might just play something like Zing and hope for the best that he finds a way to bingo somewhere else on the board. That seems to be the highest scoring way that he can get rid of the Z and hold on to his blank. So, yeah, I don't know. Tough move for him here. He's spending quite a bit of time on it. Dave is normally a very, I think he's very capable of playing blitz Scrabble, playing very fast, but this game situation calls for a very deep think.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, this is tough. What does he even do here? I mean, he did identify Geos. Oh, and now he's going to play. Oh, wow. He's going to set up an A that he does not have. He does have a blank, but he does not have an A that would slot there to make Azo and perhaps play a bingo there, but he's going to get hit back hard.
Yeah, it's not only sets up the A, it also sets up the D, which is what a team is going to immediately hammer down. Notice that there was really nowhere on the board for that to play in that manner. And a team spotted that instantaneously. It took him all of maybe 10 seconds at most to identify that as his best option and play it for 94 points. Very, very nicely done. So you can actually see a team's strategy working out exactly as he imagined. Rather than go for the highest scoring play, he went for a board closing play, forcing Dave to open and pouncing on that opening with just the right draw. So that's just the way a team drew it up.
That is lovely. That was lovely to see, mostly because it shows you how, yes, your first instinct can be going for that high scoring play. And then you think about it, you spend the time that a team did, and then you go for Runkle instead. Maybe not as many points, but it did exactly what he wanted it to do.
Dave, meanwhile, playing his highest scoring bingo here of Miss Goes, which is at this point, that's only going to get him to within 70-ish points. Looks like a 71 point deficit with 7 tiles in the bag. So once Dave draws his tiles, there will be only 7 in the bag. It doesn't look like the tiles are that great. Dave could easily draw something like HHV, and he's drawn actually decently well, but I don't think he is threatening anything that dangerous. So Etim is basically going to try to score a decent number of points and stay up by enough that even if Dave somehow gets a second bingo, Etim will still be firmly in the lead.
Absolutely. I think now might be a good time for a team to identify plays at the interior of the board, not open anything extra up, not give Dave a chance to have a strong comeback. Perhaps just SOU at the bottom of the board, making SIF, OR, and UP up. Or maybe Soul there instead. Just, get his points, but also don't open anything up that's extra.
Yeah, interesting. So the idea being playing something in this spot right here, scoring a bunch of points, definitely could go that direction. This other spot right here, if he's worried about vowel overload, this is a nice way to get a few points while also keeping a very balanced leave. So, a bunch of options that are all pretty solid for Etim. He has to feel great about his chances here simply because on the board as it is currently constructed, even a bingo for Dave it's really, I guess the only scary spot is if Dave can manage to overlap with that Collins only CH 2-letter word, something going down here might actually score enough points to give Etim a little bit of fear here. Other than that, a bingo through the G, the O, those aren't really going to score enough points to give him any concern into the end game.
That's a good point. He seems to be just doing his due diligence, tracking the tiles right now. We see him writing on his piece of paper. This is something that Scrabblers will do in their games. They're allowed to do so, track their tiles, see how many tiles have been played on the board, what frequency of the tiles are left. And that way, as the tiles dwindle down, they'll begin to have more clear and eventually perfect information of what tiles their opponent holds.
Yeah, very, very important bookkeeping to be doing in this game. I do want to acknowledge a lot of you in the chat who are suggesting that by placing just the right letter in this square, you could open up the possibility of playing brominated through all of these letters on the board. That would be absolutely bonkers. I saw it suggested that maybe just dumping the Z right there would have allowed for Zoa and brominated to go down with the right draw. In this situation, Dave, I guess, could play something like Heat right here, which would look really weird to me. If I'm Etim and I see Dave play this, I'm thinking to myself, why the heck did he do that instead of something like AH right here for significantly more points? And that is going to set my alarm bells off in a big, big way. If not for that, I guess you could set this up, but really it would only be for style points. It's not even going to score all that well. Maybe it could be a bit of a surprise in the end game sometimes, but I think it's mostly, I guess it scores 60, but again, that's not that different than one of these weak hitting bingos that we've just said we're not that afraid of through the G or O. It is one of the more stylish plays I've ever seen though, Nits, so I'm kind of rooting for that to go down some way, somehow.
Absolutely. I think another consideration that a team could have is, and I don't think this is likely, but when your opponent does bingo out with a low scoring bingo with like low scoring tiles, what that means is that you're usually the one holding the higher scoring tiles. And if the bag is out and if you end up giving them like twice the amount of points that you have available on your rack, that means you are in danger of not just, having your opponent score like 60 odd points against you, but you're giving them twice as many points off your rack. And that can add up. That could be game losing.
Yeah, totally true. And looks like a team's put a word on the board there. EAS. This scores very well. It scores 28 points and it mostly blocks the G. It completely blocks the O. It does a lot of good things to the board, and it prevents Dave from making a play here that would open more of the board now. So it has not only present benefits, but also denying Dave some opportunities there. And that's a tough one for Dave. There are 4 tiles in the bag now. Not sure. I mean, his odds of hitting brominated are phenomenal here. But again, he's down by 100. So I'm not 100% sure how he can give himself a chance to play this and also score a lot of points. Keep in mind that he also has Oath up here using those 4 tiles for 48 points. And maybe he's going to go that route and try to somehow, some way draw a bingo on the board that, remember, sorry about that, my mic slipped, but he knows more words than practically anybody. So maybe he's going to try to fish for a 9-letter word that only he can see, or that very few other players would see. He's definitely, I would defer to his expertise on how to somehow steal this game over almost anybody.
Absolutely. I mean, perhaps getting the points here with Oath might be worth it, but he also appears to be considering, or he was for a second, Oda, which would play underneath unaired. I don't think he'd be likely to make that move. Perhaps, this is just tough. What's he to do? Is he to set up a lane for himself, making OH to the side of Clouded? I don't imagine that being a good move at all. I can't imagine that not getting blocked somehow. Perhaps setting himself up for brominated, but how? In a way that still scores enough, I mean.
Yeah, exactly. That's the real problem. So, tough one. If anything, I mean, again, this has been a very crisply played game by both players. A team starting out with the beautiful spin text. Dave really playing quite accurately throughout the game. The only real head scratcher for me was the play of Calf holding on to the J. I just wonder if maybe there might have been some way for him to do a little bit better than Goji on his next turn after that, had he played Taj instead of Calf. That's pretty much it from my perspective of how could Dave have avoided being in this situation. It's a tough one. Suggestion of maybe just OH right here alongside Miss Goes. This could be kind of nice, setting up his D going across. In fact, there are no other hooks to that from his perspective lurking in the there is another H, I guess. So yeah, I guess there would be the H, but other than that, it's not that easy I guess you can. I mean, a team could block it with a pretty low scoring play here. So maybe he'll consider that. It's a tough situation. I definitely think a team is very much in the driver's seat in this game.
I do like that play of I mean, I know it's likely to get blocked, but damn, that's a really good find, you guys. I mean, great job, chat. That's interesting. Oof. I mean, he did have Tai Hoa lined up on his rack. Perhaps he was looking for an E to play the Tai Hoa through. There's not one that he's going to be able to do that. He can just play Tai Hoa, the 6 letters to the side of Clouded. Not worth doing that. He's in a tough position. I think he's going to go back to Oath.
Yeah, that's a much more natural play because you aren't really creating any new spots on the board to use, but you're scoring 48 points if you play Oath right here. And what that means is in those maybe 1 in a million chances where you draw something that somehow still fits on the board, you've scored enough points that a team now actually has to worry that maybe he loses the game if he gives up a 9-letter bingo or some really crazy overlapping bingo somewhere on the board. Other plays just don't score enough to give a team that much concern. So if Dave is in doubt, I do expect him to go back to Oath and cross his fingers that he has something really cool. But maybe he'll come up with something different. His clock finally is ticking down to next to nothing. There we go. He has
Oh,
gone
wow.
ahead and played instead of OH. He plays AH in this spot, trying to create a lane that a team at least has to address in some way, shape, or form. It's not that likely to work for him, but it's a very natural, very human move from Dave.
Yeah, that was a really good spot on his side. I mean, he wanted to unduplicate that A, give himself one more shot. His clock, oh my God, it is so low. He's going to have to play his next move instantly. Now it's up to a team to find his best play.
So the thing about AH instead of OH in that spot is all else being equal, if you were to swap this A out with this O, he would now be threatening a weighted and doe in this spot right here. So maybe playing off the O instead of that A would actually have been likelier, knowing that the odds of drawing EW were not that bad. Either way, should be relatively easy for a team to just block it, and that is what he's about to do. From a team's standpoint, there definitely are some things in this pool that Dave could have that he needs to worry about. So I do think, at least I think so. Hold on, let me just make sure of that. Is there anything? Yeah, just towhead, I think. So there is at least one word that Dave could have. If he were to swap out this I for the H that's in the bag, he would be threatening a massive bingo in that spot. That really does need to get blocked. So maybe even then, if a team just what happens if he plays just VEE right here? Does he go up by enough points to still win the game after that? Let me just check that real quick. Potentially not, actually. Towhead scores 102, and Dave would win the game. So from a team standpoint, he has to be worried that Dave has the one possible winning play that he doesn't have, but he could from a team's POV.
What if he fishes out just the E, a team, I mean, and tries to go for Evolute or Velute somewhere? I don't know where that would go.
Yeah, the issue is it doesn't really fit anywhere. From a team standpoint, there's no real way to fish for something that you can actually play. So I do like his tack here of just blocking instead. I'm curious if I just take a look here after his play of Oval, I don't think that Dave can actually bingo anywhere on this board unless he has some crazy 9. In any case, good block by a team, and Dave quickly gets down his top end game move. He played it incredibly fast, but that's amazing by him to identify that so fast.
Man is incredible to watch.
So back over to Etim. He's got a little bit more time. Looks like his best play here is HETE. And just as I'm about to start drawing it on the board, he plays that too. These players are playing at such a high level.
Dave has a number of outs, but he finds his top scoring one, surprising literally no one. With 2 seconds to go on his clock. Jesus. Wow.
2 seconds left. He's made use of every last second. I guess not literally speaking. He has two two more that he could have used without taking a penalty, but that's this was a tough game for him. A lot to think about. He's shaking his head a little bit. Not sure if we're going to get any discussion between the players here. If I want to just cut over to the board and see if they're actually going to talk about this at all, or whether they're going to be all business here.
Let's do it.
You have to. I kept having the answer.
Yeah, I know. Going my way.
Yeah, sorry.
Jesse Day seeming to be picking up a tile on the ground behind Dave or something there. Doing some yoga.
You had a bingo when I played this?
What was the letter?
You had a bingo when I played this?
No.
Oh, you know. I was just too careful.
Almost. It didn't fit. Psychosis.
I was 51 here, but I said no.
Oh, yeah.
Things the board would be too open.
That probably would have given me one.
All right, looks like we got all the discussion we're gonna get. So that's interesting. So you can hear that was a conscious choice. I don't think Etim had any doubt that Nuke on his Runkle turn, using the same 4 letters that he played right there for a significantly higher score. He knew it was good. It was just he was hoping that in the process of playing this word that he might block a bunch of bingos that Dave has. I guess they are actually talking about it more, but it's all right. But yeah, the chat is basically suggesting that maybe this play of Zoe by Dave was a little bit too aggressive there. I don't mind it. Oh man, they're still talking about it. Maybe let's cut back.
Let's cut back.
Great spot. But I needed to keep.
Yeah,
I needed a big bingo.
They're so cool and collected, you know. It doesn't matter how bad the victory or the defeat. They're just chill.
Yeah, both very relaxed, even-keeled players for sure. All right, I think we've gotten our discussion there as they're squaring the board. Once again, why are they doing this? It's a courtesy to the next players to this board. Very, very easy to quickly see, yep, all 100 tiles are present and accounted for when the previous players are doing this. So that's why this is done. And yeah, it was a pretty interesting game, Nits. Nsikak Etim, the winner. And again, the Nigerian contingent is having an absolutely fantastic performance so far in this event. Just looking over the standings, there is a pinned comment here in my chat on YouTube that should show you, but apparently Wellington Jigare won his previous round to move up to 11-4. He is the lone player with 11, and now there are 4 players at 10. Jesse Day, Etim, who we just saw with that win. Winter doing incredibly well as the 21 seed in this difficult field, and everybody's favorite Twitch streaming content creator, Josh Sokol, another player at 10 wins. So we will definitely be getting as many games with there's too many good games and not enough time, Nits. But our game for next round is actually, we are going to have a reappearance of Dave Wiegand, I believe, going up against the top ranked countryman of his right now, Jesse Day. That is a banger.
Absolutely. And I'm glad that you mentioned that about Winter because we saw his dominant performance at SBC just last week. He did beautifully. He's really, I mean, I believe he's won a World Cup before. He's really like his performance is really nothing to sneeze at. And Jesse Day, you know, yet another strong player. We saw him at the beginning of Saturday, I believe. He was the first player to be streamed on this board. It's going to be great to see him up against Dr. Bing. It's sure to be an explosive matchup, I think. I'm really excited.
Yeah, and we'll definitely be picking our third matchup of the day and try to bring you some different players. Maybe we'll get Wellington on the stream again. Maybe we'll give Winter his due as a player that has really rocketed his way up the standings and earned a place at the top board. Either way, we are going to take a quick break right now as we get reset for round 16 from the Collins division at the 2024 World Cup.